Welcome back to our presentation here in the issues room. Today is the Day of the African Child, which is June 16th, 2026. Welcome to this presentation. My name is Volcano Shelton. I will be joined very shortly in minutes with my colleague, Alfonso Yeno. But in the meantime, I'd like to say thank you for joining us here. As you and I know, we're here on Tuesday. Uh, my voice is kind of a little shaky. I'm drinking some hot ginger therapy to help me out with the voice. But I'd like to say thank you for joining us. You saw our flyer, and our topic of discussion tonight is the $19 million drug case that is trending in Liberia. Everyone is crying that the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency is not releasing names of people of interest or persons of interest, and the community, along with many Liberians, are demanding names. Of course, one of the names put forth by the name of Emmanuel Zinion, everyone is saying that person is deceased, and so it creates more controversies, and people are thinking that the government is trying to do cover ups. We also want to look at the concession agreements of our country. Are we benefiting? The country, is it benefiting from it, from its extractive industries? You and I know that we hear all the time that these companies come and take advantage of us as a people, and so that's what we want to talk about. Let me bring Alfonso in. Maybe he's now ready. Alfonso, welcome.
Thank you for Keanu. I'm glad to be here, and to our listeners, thank you very much for joining us. Share our link. Ask your colleagues, friends, and family members to join. As you heard Volcano talk about the two very important topics that we will be discussing today. I think these are very important to our country. We benefiting from our extractive industries. These resources belong to the people, and if and it's important for the country and the people to benefit. So we want to talk about some of those issues today during the conversation, and also, of course, the issue of drugs in Liberia. That's a significant issue. We watch videos of young people standing in the streets as zombies, people dying, and people wasting away. So that's a very critical discussion as well. And I'm glad to join you, Volcano, in this conversation, in this very important conversation.
Okay. Thank you. We got to play this thing because of the echo elimination. That's what I'm trying to do, go back and forth. But again, as I said, the World Cup is currently trending. Right now, as I said earlier, because I was muted, Norway is in the lead, leading Iraq 2-1. I believe they're going to halftime. Of course, Senegal lost to France 3-1. Uh, Kylian Mbappe was the man of the match with two beautiful goals. Um, just so much going on, the drama here and there. Germany beating Carousel 7-1. America winning her game 4-1. So a lot, but tonight also a good game will be Algeria and Argentina. That's the last game for the night. But again, just thought to throw that out there, and I know Liberians are sports enthusiasts, especially when it comes to soccer. I can imagine all of the little drinking spots and sports bars and video clubs jam packed, especially for the game earlier. And I'm sure a lot of Africans were disappointed with the performance of Senegal. They did extremely well, but at some point in the second half, everything just changed. That's the difference when you're playing powerhouse, poised, know what to do when it's necessary.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been able to watch any of these games today because I've been on the move. As a matter of fact, I had to stop in Newark, New Jersey, to take this show coming from New York. So I'm not home. So unfortunately, I haven't. I really wanted to watch the Senegal game, um, but I'm sure I'll watch it tonight. There will be replays, so I'll be able to watch it tonight. But those have been great games. I also watched a number of games yesterday as well, particularly the I was sitting with a group of friends and we watched the Iran game. That was great. The U.S. game was also great with Paraguay. So I think, yeah, and I can imagine a lot of people in Monrovia are watching the games, following the games. I can't wait for the day when Liberia appears in the World Cup.
I think this is the country through which Liberia will appear because of the number of teams added. So it gives an opportunity to Liberia to make, the World Cup now. I don't think we should have any excuse. If Cape Verde made a World Cup, we should be able to make the World Cup. And quite frankly, they
And,
played very well
and
against Spain.
Carousel
Yeah, no, no,
made it work.
I'm just talking on the continent. I'm just focused now
Yeah,
in Africa because we don't qualify in any other continent except Africa. But what I'm saying is Cape Verde, if they could make the World Cup, Liberia now has a chance to make the World Cup because, of course, with the addition of more teams, that provides, the opportunity for us. And again, Cape Verde played very well, had a draw with Spain of all countries. But again, let's come to our conversation here tonight. Um, President Boyka addressed the nation earlier today regarding this drug stuff. And I believe he came to tell the people, because too many cries here and there. But the backdrop behind this is the Liberian Drug Enforcement Agency, working with the Joint Security and airport authorities, announced the seizure of approximately 277.6 kilograms of cocaine concealed in cargo at the Rabas International Airport. The shipment was reportedly packaged in 6 cargo boxes and was being processed through Brussels Airlines for export to Europe. Authorities estimated its value at $19.2 million, making it one of the largest cocaine seizures in Liberia's recent history. That's profound, profound. And when something like that takes place, especially considering our country and what is trending with regards to the usage of drugs across all sectors of the country, particularly with the youthful population, that is highly alarming. But what is also interesting, and also before you come in, is that how are these cocaine being packaged in Liberia? How they got there in the first place to be packaged in Liberia? It's not like, we grow it there and we do it there. The powder has to come from somewhere to get to Liberia and then to make its way to Europe. So I think now we're going to be looked at as a transit point, and that is not good for us. But let me hear from you.
yeah. Um, you're correct, Volcano. This is an unfortunate situation, but this situation has existed for a little while now. So you have drugs coming from other parts of the world and transiting through Liberia. What has been happening is that once the United States has fortified its border against drugs, once Europe has fortified their border against the flow of drugs into their country, what has been happening is that drug producing cartels and countries have been looking for, countries that have weaker border protections, weaker security and intelligence apparatuses, and trying to, traffic their drugs through those countries, back into the United States and into Europe. And remember, there was the $100 million drug situation in Liberia. Um, and then, of course, there was also the drugs that were found with big for barrels and stuff in the country as well. And in that case, I believe it was the U.S. Government that alerted the Liberian government of the importation of the drugs. So what has been happening is basically these drug cartels have been trying to take advantage of the weaker border and security protections in West Africa. So Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, and other countries have really been targeted for this. And that's how the drugs, many of the drugs are actually coming into the country. I would not be surprised if they also just import them as raw material and then they are produced and packaged in Liberia as well. Um, but that's a very serious situation. I think that Liberian government needs to get very serious about it. Be very vigilant along our borders and ports of entry. But be very vigilant around our ports of entry and make sure that drugs are not coming into the country. I want to thank the LDA. However, they got the information to really intercept this $19 million worth of drugs that was in the process of being exported from Liberia. Because not only did the drugs enter the country, which is a serious concern, they were being exported from Liberia to Europe, in which case Liberia could have been flagged as as a transit point where drugs are being sent to Europe, which would have tarnished us. So I want to say the FDA did a very wonderful job. I'm sure we'll get to
But
the
I wouldn't even go there because the
yeah.
fact that we've already gone exposed with the intent that this was happening had it not gotten caught, but the fact that it got caught and we're bringing it to the public, to the attention
Mhm.
of the international community, that in itself has created the fact that I said that the drug was never grown in Liberia, meaning the cocaine. We don't have that kind of stuff happening. So it means that we are a transit point at this point. And who knows
Absolutely.
how long drugs will have gone through our porous borders across, the rest of the world.
Absolutely. There's a study out there actually that West Africa has been a transit point for drugs, including Liberia, for a while now. Um, my understanding from the research is that again, as I said earlier, with countries like Colombia and other countries around those region being monitored because they are drug producing and the doors have been largely shut on them by America and European countries, what they've been doing is actually trying to transit their drugs um, again from there into Africa, and one of the main countries in Africa where these drugs are first transported to, in my understanding, is Guinea-Bissau. From
So
Guinea-Bissau,
let me coin a quick name for it. We had the
yeah,
transatlantic slave trade. Now
yeah,
we have the transatlantic drug trade.
absolutely,
Okay, because that's what it sounds like. They're looking
yeah,
for
exactly,
little outlets between South America and that of like West Africa, in the Atlantic somewhere there, and that's
yep,
what's happening right now.
yep. So the go to Guinea-Bissau, not only Guinea-Bissau, other countries, but they go to Guinea-Bissau and then they get transported from Guinea-Bissau to Liberia to Sierra Leone, and then from there they get transported to the United States or to Europe. So that has been happening for years now, for a very, very long time. And that was what even attracted the attention of the United States, of European countries. And that's why, again, as I said earlier, when you heard that drugs were intercepted during the Weah administration, and they were alerted by the U.S. intelligence, that's because the U.S. intelligence is not good. Also, the Sahel region, with all of the activities going on there, the wars that are going on. The security in that region is now porous, is now weak. So they're also taking drug traffickers are also taking advantage, and of course, as you know, terrorist organizations are also selling drugs as well as a way of raising funds, to buy the arms and to continue fighting. So that whole region with, is where drugs are coming from, and they're trying to transit them into Europe and the United States. So we have been a transit point for a while now, and that is why I think it's extremely critical for our security institutions to get really vigilant in terms of stopping the drugs from coming into the country. And one of the good things that is happening with this $19 million drug is that people are now saying we want to get to the bottom of it. Where are these drugs coming from? Why are they being sent to? There must be an international, transnational cartel involved. Let's get to them and let's try to nip this situation in the bud by dismantling those drug cartels. Yeah, and I think that's what's going on.
Thank you. Accordingly, the multiple persons of interest have been identified. Several individuals are reportedly in custody. Now, identified does not mean that their names have been exposed. The investigation involves a suspected transnational criminal network, like you said. Authorities are conducting forensic analysis, chain of custody, verification, intelligence gathering, and coordination with international partners. The agency, meaning the LDEA, is deliberately withholding names while the investigation remains active. But President Bouazizi spoke today, and I think the president coming up is a matter of understanding the significance of this kind of event on the country's image, especially when we're trying to rebuild. Today, Liberia, can be considered one of the regional hubs for visa, American visa, because Liberia, among the 20 countries, was given that right, selected. That in itself can make a mess if we don't really show that we really mean business about this. It tints our international image, especially for Liberians, ordinary Liberians who would travel across the world. That in itself would be cause for concern. They will be looked at differently, you and I. But let's hear from the president and then we go back into our conversation. Let me just grab that clip quick.
I address you today regarding the recent seizure
Can you hear
of
him?
approximately 237.6 kilograms of cocaine around addictions in our nation's history. It is a stark reminder that transnational criminal enterprises continue to view West Africa as a transit corridor for dangerous drugs, illicit proceeds. Let me be loud and clear here. Though I maintain that Liberia is open for business, Liberia is not open for business of drug trafficking. Liberia would not be used as a safe haven, transit point, warehouse, financial center, or operational base by a criminal network engaged in narcotic trafficking. Any group, individual, group, and network that seek to exploit our territory, corrupt our institutions, endanger our youth, or undermine the national security will be identified, pursued, and brought to justice. In view of the seriousness of this incident, I directed that the investigation be conducted by the National Joint Security under the authority of the National Security Council. The investigation is being conducted by the Liberian Drug Enforcement Agency and the Liberian National Police with support from National Security Agency, the Executive Protection Service, the Financial Intelligence Agency, the Liberia Immigration Service, Customs Authorities, Airport Security, and the Ministry of Justice and other relevant security institutions. This investigation will proceed on two fronts. First, every individual directly connected to the shipment will be identified, arrested, investigated where evidence warrants, and prosecuted consistent with the law. Second, and equally important, we will identify and dismantle the entire criminal enterprise behind this operation. We are not interested only in intercepting drugs or arresting couriers. We are determined to express and expose and destroy the networks that finance, coordinate, facilitate, and profit from criminal activity, whether they operate within Liberia or beyond our borders, whether they are private citizens, public officials, financials, facilitators, and foreign actors, they will feel the full force of the law.
So, um, so I'm trying to get your mic on mute. Okay. So he said a lot of things here. The more focus is not just grabbing the drugs and destroying it. We want to know the source. We want to know who are involved. I said Liberia is open for business, but not this kind of business.
No.
I mean, we're struggling enough, to say the least, but not this kind of business. So,
Yep.
folks in my government or folks in the country who think that they can benefit from this kind of business, you're on the wrong side of the law, and will do everything to bring those to book. But Alfonso, here's the question here we talked about. Liberians are demanding names. It's been several days now. While it is true that the investigation is ongoing, some of the research I've done professionally, some folks are saying that there's no need to release names yet because even though we have some people arrested, we want them to talk because when we start releasing names, then it has a propensity to make a mess with the investigation. You are a legal mind. Does that hold constant? Because we know that in other situations, we've rushed to name names. Why this one? And if you've been watching social media, there is a group called Sahara, and they came up with a video I saw on Focus on Liberia, and it kind of looked animated anyway, but it talked about names like Mandela Cooper, names like Tantan Bwaka, son of the president, Mohammed Ba. They said that the drug was brought in the country by some of the big fishes within the president's inner circle. And so, where these names are coming from, the government has not released anything. Is it a ploy by the opposition to force the government to come, with names? So let's call some names and put their feet to the fire. Come in.
I think that Liberia, we're going through a very unfortunate situation in our history. We're going through a very unfortunate situation in our history. Well, a lot of people think that opposition politics simply means that pin the government, pin the country black however you can. Nothing good should ever happen, and then suddenly you get in leadership as well, and that's a very horrible way that oppositions. I've heard many opposition people issuing statements and calling for names to be released as if that's the most important thing that can really happen in this situation. To answer your question directly, I believe that the LDA and law enforcement authorities are in the right not to release names right now because first of all, there should be no rush. Names should not be released prematurely. We should be focused on the fact that these drugs were intercepted. We should be focused on the fact and hope and push government to make sure that they get to the bottom of this and arrest the right people. And you struck an important point. I don't know how these people who are publishing these things really know that these people are the ones who brought the drugs in the country that are involved. I've seen that too. I saw no evidence from them to say these people brought this. It's just, intended in my view to either distract, you know, or pin the government and the country black because people think that once they do so, then somehow they're great, smart politicians and they will be elected into office. Now, there are a number of reasons why, when in ongoing criminal investigations, particularly of this nature that involves intelligence gathering, investigations, and especially because there are multiple law enforcement jurisdictions involved, um, that you don't just rush and just throw names out there because it doesn't help the situation. What might happen is that people might begin, if I'm connected to you, for instance, and you are arrested and your name is released, I'm beginning to destroy evidence right away. I'm beginning to flee. So people can run away. People can go, co-conspirators can run away. Co-conspirator can go into hiding. They can destroy evidence. They can start tampering with witnesses. So it then makes it difficult for law enforcement to gather the evidence that's needed to secure convictions. And I think President Barker made a very important point. We're not just trying to find out who was transporting the drugs from Liberia. We're not just trying to catch the people in whose possession we found the drugs. We want to find out where these drugs keep coming from. Who are the people behind it? We want to work with our international partners to make sure that we break this cartel. We want to find out how the drugs are making it into our country, and now our country is being used as a transit point. As you correctly said earlier, we don't produce cocaine, at least not at that level that I know of. So it must have come from somewhere. Where did it come from? That's a jurisdiction that the LDEA needs to get in touch with to make sure that they start doing their own underground investigation to arrest people who might be involved in it. Where were the drugs going to? Which country? Who was it being mailed to? What's the cartel names of people in those countries that were supposed to receive and sell these drugs? We need to work with those international partners in that destination country or countries to make sure that those people who are involved in the process are also tracked down. I think Liberians should be interested in bursting this whole drug trafficking syndicate in our country instead of throwing names out there and trying to play politics with it. And it's
So let
frustrating
me
when you
throw.
see educated people, politicians making noise, unsubstantiated noise, and allegations regarding this matter.
So the research says here the larger issue is not simply whether we name names that we need to release name. The real test is whether the investigation leads to credible prosecutions, convictions where warranted, and accountability for everyone involved, regardless of status, wealth, or political connections. If the public sees arrest, indictments, and court proceedings, confidence in the process will likely increase far more than the early release of names. And that's what people are not waiting. So, a balanced approach says that complete the immediate investigative phase, formally charge those whom sufficient evidence exists, publicly disclose their identities and charges through the courts and the Ministry of Justice, and then continue withholding the names of uncharged individuals who remain under investigation. That's the way this this thing should work.
And that's the way it has worked in professional settings. And you hit the nail right on the head. Unfortunately, every Liberian thinks that once they say something unsubstantiated and criticized, then somehow they are a trailblazing advocate of the people. And what really bothers me for Canada is we have people who are lawyers, who graduated from law schools, who said they did how they call this other thing to do, intelligence stuff or investigation and all of that, saying these type of things. It gets so frustrating. I had a discussion with somebody today about they should release the names of, towards what end? What's the benefit to releasing names? To undermine the investigation. I think what we should be focused on, it's as you said, let's make sure we get to the bottom and get the right people. And then when we charge, transparency is not being undermined here. This is the initial stage of the investigation. These are people of interest. Another reason why is important, in addition to everything you just named, another reason why is important is you don't want to prejudice the case. You also don't want to turn people against others who might not really, you might not have real evidence against. Let's say the grab Volcano Shelton in the dragnet, or the grab Alfonso, they say, oh, Alfonso is affiliate of Volcano Shelton, so let's go grab him too. Maybe he's aware. Or somebody says Volcano Shelton's name. And they just get up in the morning and announce that we arrested Volcano Shelton and Alfonso and everybody and blah, blah, blah. And then they find out the following day that Volcano is not part of the ring. You know what a Liberian poet said? Oh, but the corrupt Volcano paid them, and that what and Volcano's name would never ever be completely exonerated from that. Volcano has a right not to go people through that ringer. So that's another reason. The rights of persons of interest and suspects must be protected against any prejudicial actions. And so that's one important aspect why we shouldn't just throw people's names out. You could ruin people's lives. You could damage them. Now, as you said, the thing you just said, with the people against whom we have sufficient evidence, then we can release their names and charge them. That's how it's done in civilized societies. So Liberians need to slow down a little bit and just start undermining this whole system, and let's fight drugs and not use the fight against drugs for political ends and means.
And honestly, that's the route the opposition likes to take, and it's unfortunate. Instead of us looking at the bigger picture, and why I say look at the bigger picture is that whatever happens to this government happens to the country,
Yep.
especially with this drug issue. This is a mammoth, a matter, and so we have to approach it with caution, with credibility, with intent, you know, to clean our image, because right now it's on the line. As I said, many good things coming for our foreign policy, many good things are putting us back in the Committee of Nations, and this shouldn't be, oh yes, it's happy that the Boycott government, guess what? They are doing drugs, they are doing this, they are doing that. I honestly think that while it is true that people have the political uh, menu, they have, what on the menu and they love what they want to eat. At the end of the day, political party is not Liberia. They come, they fail, the leaders come, they fail, but Liberia remains. So for the collective good of the country, we need to see it from a patriotic perspective. I've always preached that. We need to see it from we are together, because on national issues of this matter, we cannot be divided.
Yep.
Our children's future on the line. Um, our image as a country is on the line. Do you know what it means? I heard uh, 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 I don't even want to call a name because I would be giving relevance, but somebody calling Liberia a narco state.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? How do you arrive at that calling of your country a narco state? I think due diligence is the way to go throughout this whole procedure, because if you rush and start naming him, what if even the government decide to put on oppositions? Have they thought about it? The government is the government. It has the authority to flip things around and put on opposition. So for you to be so happy to get a name, if the government decide to call an opposition name, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? So the truth here is we need to, take our time. The good thing is that something is happening. The LDE is doing its job with the National Joint Security, whatever. The president has come and made an open declaration that this matter is not, something of a chicken feather, light like a chicken feather. This is a boulder. It's heavy like a boulder, and we treat it as such. Alfonso.
Absolutely. And I think the president hit several very important cards in his presentation. The way to defeat the drug epidemic in Liberia is not just to arrest a few people in Liberia, put their names in newspapers, and then that's it. I'm reading some of the comments in the chat. Thomas Awaji made a very important point. Thanks for posting it. I think Flomo did it as well. Part of the reason why the previous government took people to court on $100 million drug that were trafficked into the country is because they didn't have the they didn't line up the evidence that's necessary to convict. The people might know that these people actually did it, but there's court procedures, there's evidentiary procedure, that investigations that you must follow. If you fail to follow those things, you could lose a very good case. could lose a very good case. It's the law. We've seen it. Um, OJ was released here, even though many people believe that he killed his wife. There are a lot of people who were also let off the hook in court because, even though the public believed that he did it, but because the police, the investigators, made certain critical errors that tainted or that undermined evidence. So professionalism is required here in this investigation. And that's why I'm commending the LDA. Do not be pushed or pressured by this nonsense in the public about saying, oh, the hiding names and all of that just to cover up for officials. And you made a very salient point for Canada. What if government came up tomorrow and said, no, it was these opposition people that brought the drugs, just as we are accusing government officials today of being the one without evidence? Can they also throw it in our laps too and say, oh, we brought it? They don't need to give, now they don't need to give evidence. Now they can arrest us and put us in jail and we're languishing there in jail. We can't put it in jail. We can just run in the street. And I saw a group of young people at the in front of the U.S. embassy talking about, oh, an 80-year-old president is bringing drugs into the country and is killing us young people. So and politicians is putting few, I mean, hands in the pocket, taking few dollars and giving it to these children and putting them in the streets instead of coming up with concrete, important programs for the children. They continue to think that they can use our young people for their selfish political aims. I will say here, if President Barker was the one that brought the drugs into the country, and I shouldn't be defense, not my job, but let's say President Barker was the one that brought drugs into the country, you don't think it will come as presidential cargo and be taken directly to his house or whatever, protected by national security? So we have to get
Let me
serious.
pause you there. Let me pause
Yeah,
you there. That was a
yeah,
very, very good point you made.
yeah,
Something for the president.
yeah,
Flies will not come near it before I say mosquito.
yeah.
The president drug coming, then you talking about it going through John security or it going through airport. It's not possible. So you made a point, and I don't think they thought about it to say that the president is bringing drugs. I heard Yeke Koluba talking about that Baka brought the drugs. Even Spoon of all people was saying no, it's not possible. That probably don't even know what they call black and mouse. You know what they call black and mouse?
Yeah, I've seen black and white.
Okay. That probably don't even know what they call black and mouse. Needless to say, he doesn't even know what they call joint. Before I say we're talking cocaine. He may just see it as powder and rub it on his skin because he think it wedding, you know. But that was a good point you made.
Yeah.
Something for the president bringing drug, and you think it will go through regular security airport? No way.
His
The scene with the
security will
president,
go and
the
pick it
scene
up
with
and
hold
give
on,
it to
the
him.
scene with the president, the scene with the president is a VIP.
Yeah,
His drugs will be VIP.
yeah, okay.
I just want to put that there.
No, no, you're right. You're 100% right. And I think I want to ask my opposition brothers and sisters. I want to ask the Liberian people, let's join hands in fighting drugs. If you have evidence on a government official or anybody in your community who was involved in this, definitely put it out there. But let's work together to find the actual culprits. Let's support the system that will get us to there. Let's stop this petty, uninformed, childish politics that says bring your country down, put your country down, make it so investors cannot come into the country, so the government will fail, and people will not get in the government fail, and then we will get elected or you will get elected. That's cruel. That's unpatriotic. And you made the point earlier about patriotism. That's unpatriotic. And sooner rather than later, voters will see through those things. It will mean that you don't love your country. You're just trying to use the people, undermine the country to get to power, which is unfortunate. And we need to work hard, and that's why I like this show for Canada. We need to continue to work hard to provide different narrative and to encourage people. We should do our best and work with the administration in place. We should work in cross purposes with them if they are not doing the right thing. But we should make sure that our country succeeds, because if it succeeds, everybody succeeds. Yeah, yep, important point. So the president's security sector people, in fact, NSA director and other people would go to the airport and grab the president's luggage and take it to his or her house. They don't have regular LDA officers at the airport searching and say, "Oh, who's up the president on it?" They don't even go through those regular channels. They pick her up from the plane. They drive the car to the plane. They put it in the car and they drive away with it. That's that's how it's done. So this whole concept, putting a group of children, boys, young boys, I heard a young man speaking at the U.S. embassy. Why are you even sending children to the U.S. embassy to say, "Come"? I think they made reference to, "Oh, you went to Venezuela and took the president of Venezuela. Come here and take our leaders and presidents." Who tells these young people to go and do these kinds of things? That's insane. That is crazy. And I think we just need to help and provide a different alternative. Yeah.
Well, if you just joining us, we'd like to welcome you here to our broadcast here in the Issues Room. We are here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight, we're talking about the releasing of names attached to the investigation concerning the drugs found at the Roberts International Airport in the tune of $19.2 million. The president addressed that. Our conversation will continue. We're going to switch now. Just before we go to the next topic, um, we want you to continue to love us, like us, and share our page. We're here again every Tuesday. We're still going 1 day a week. But on Thursday, you can catch me as I go solo with the Volcano Shelton Show. Um, but again, we come here to discuss the things that matter to our country. It's not about politics, it's not about theoretism. It's about looking at things from an objective perspective. We want to make sure that uh, people understand that why it is true that President Boaga is in power, he's not perfect. There's a lot of things happening in that government, but it's not on the proportion of previous governments. We'll say that. And he should act within the confines of his role to make sure that his legacy is protected. So we will not cover up or not call a spade if we see the need for it. So we just want to make that clear that we're not promoting or on the side of the UP. Neither are we on the side of President Boaка. We're on the side of Liberia, our common patrimony or whatever you want to call it. We're on the side of Liberia. And that is why we've sacrificed our 1 hour and change to come here. We put our own resources in, all of the equipment we use just to be a part of the discourse because we want to bring balanced approach. That's what we consider ourselves the alternative. We say this because many other platforms will come here and they will spew out things, confuse you, and you run with it. But we want to make sure that we bring it to you from a balanced perspective because that's what we're about. The issues room. That's why we are discussing the issues that matter. Alfonso, on this now, in closing on this, the DEA should go with caution in this investigation and do what they feel best to make sure that they won't be under any pressure, that they will do the job. Is that your closing sentiment?
That is my closing sentiment. And I also want to say here that a lot of people, legislators, everybody, are even bringing up different issues and using them to say, "Oh, this person's name was also mentioned. These people's names were also mentioned. Therefore, the people involved here, their names should be mentioned." I would say here very briefly that first of all, the circumstances in those cases that they are citing are not the same circumstances in this case. Let's take the Bucket Ross circumstance that some people cited. DA went to Bucket Ross' house to conduct a search. Parker Ross and his people try to prevent them, took cell phones and started broadcasting the incident. I saw the video. DA officers stood up there for a very protracted period of time, not even talking, had their own cell phones recording. So in the Bucket Ross situation, Bucket Ross announced it. Secondly, it was a public raid. Let's take the Samuel Jackson case that they're talking about. Oh, the police said they went to Samuel Jackson house and whatever. When they went, police communicated privately with Samuel Jackson that they wanted to talk to him concerning the death of his wife. Samuel Jackson, we all saw the what he portrayed out there when the police went there. He drew the media and the public attention to himself. The police said, "You come with us. We want to raid or investigate Samuel Jackson." They said there was the brother story of a lady who was arrested at the RIA. This lady was arrested with the drugs in her possession. In this case, this was packaged as cargo being shipped out of the country. That's a different situation, a different circumstance. And you would think that, PhDs and lawyers and legislators and other people will understand these differences. They just, I believe they do. They're just deliberately trying to tarnish the country because they believe once they're not in power, nothing good should happen in the country. Investors should not come. The economy should not improve. How can you be a citizen of a country? How can you be a politician seeking leadership in the country? And yet you still hoping and praying and doing everything for the country not and the citizens not to make progress. So I think it's insane. It is insane, and I believe the LD is doing a fantastic job. If they have evidence against somebody, they can say their name. But for now, no rush, no pressure on releasing names. And I think what President Boakai has said today, that they're not just stopping at Liberia, that they work with the international partners to get to the bottom of this thing and see where the cartels are operating from the different countries and try to break them. That's the most important thing I've ever heard in this case. Open your mic. Open your mic.
Yeah, man, my man, we gotta fix the echo thing because sometimes you just lean in. You can hear me.
Open your mic again.
It is open.
Your mic is closed.
My mic is open.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I'm not hearing you.
Okay, then something is wrong here. Yeah, it's open. My mic is open. Can you hear me? Oh goodness. Alfonso, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Um, I wonder if anyone can hear me out there because my mic is open. Because I think they're going back and forth. My mic is open. I don't know why you're not hearing me. Let me see what the comment says here. Um, Maybe you're not hearing me, but I believe it's open.
You're muted.
Okay. But my stuff muted. It's not saying muted here, so probably there's a connection issue somewhere. But go ahead, be talking. Let me find my cue.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you might have muted yourself while I was speaking, so
Yeah.
because of this
Go
influence, so
ahead.
yes,
Go ahead.
continue. So yeah, yep, so that's the issue of the drugs, and that's my final statement. We can move on. We can move on. We can now move on to the other topic, which is whether Liberia is benefiting from its extractive industries, which has been a I would say, century long problem from Firestone to Lanco to Bung Mines to Bombing Hills. These people come exploit our resources, take millions and billions of dollars for them, and then leave us the gaping holes, and the poverty and deprivation and pollution that their companies and cause us. And so it's extremely important. This is a very important topic, and I think the government needs to take a very serious action on this. They need to review all of the concession agreements. I was reviewing the Via Mountain concession agreement yesterday. It's really horrible and was extended in 2023 by the WIA government to 2051. That's real horrible, and it's not supposed, and it's not open according to the agreement. It's not open for review until 2028, which is a horrible situation. I think the government, the national legislature, and the executive need to take a hard look at it and go back to the drawing board and bring Bear Mountain in and say, although we signed an agreement with you, but we realize that this agreement is not in the interest of the Liberian people, it's not in the interest of the government, so we are not inclined to wait for 2028 before we review it. We want to review it right now. And if Bear Mountain refuses, then Bear Mountain can leave and other investors can come. People want gold. The price of gold is going up every day. So we're not inclined to stick with an agreement that is not helpful to the Liberian people, and agree that is not, helping us to, our people are not benefiting from. Meanwhile, they're extracting our gold, our timber, and our diamond. That's unacceptable, and I think that needs to be addressed fully. And I think the Liberian people need to get up and go to the legislators. These are the type of things we should be discussing. These are the type of things our civil society organizations, these are the type of things our opposition political parties should be advocating on, not the- making noise in the street about releasing names of, a taxi driver who drugs was given to say transport mongoose to RIA, all of that. We should be at the pollution, the level of pollution that these mining companies are causing in our communities. These are the things people should be doing studies. Go to the communities, look at the destitution, look at the pollution that's in the society. Look at how much people are being paid. Look at how many Liberians they've hired, and come up with reports. Do studies and come up with reports. That will make you more credible than issuing statements on why they're not releasing the names now, the holding names of people, etc. Um, I still not. Um, I thought I thought you muted yourself when I was speaking, and then you needed to unmute yourself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Technology, my brother, is crazy. But we just, I'll continue while you try to fix it. Here are a few things that may go to a few things that I look at as I was reviewing the Beer Mountain concession agreement yesterday, and it really bothered me. Um, for example, I look at the employment section. It said the operator shall not import unskilled labor into the republic. The operator shall employ and shall give preference to the employment of qualified Liberian citizens for skilled technical, administrative, and managerial positions. The operator shall, however, have the right at all times to choose its own senior management freely and without restriction. I think that is a problem right there. In as much as they have the right to choose senior management, I think Liberians should be prioritized in terms of senior management position, and it shouldn't be not without restriction. Subject to the foregoing, the operator shall be entitled to employ expatriates in accordance with the labor practices law of Liberia. Yes, the labor practice law accept, but it says that unless qualified Liberians are not available. So again, this is one piece of the Bear Mountain Agreement that I think the government should look at. For example, um, Another aspect that I think they should look at is I don't even want to look at training because I think we shouldn't even leave our training and education portfolio to companies to open schools and train people. When we did that with Firestone, here's what Firestone did. For more than 100 years, Firestone existed. They only had a junior high school, and the reason was simple. The reason they had only a junior high school was the people they wanted to train were only tappers. They wanted tappers to tap their rubber trees. So if they stop you at a junior high school and if you're a bright student, they took two, three bright students and sent them somewhere, they came back and they became, assistant managers and managers there. But they were not training engineers. They were not training people to come and do value added and produce rubber, products in our country like tires and slippers and stuff. No, they wanted to export. So they were just so we should not leave the training of our manpower to these people because what they want to do is to just train the basic laborers who will do the labor work while they can bring their technical people and expatriates to come and do the work. Another part was royalties. So royalty rate. The operator shall pay to the government in dollars a royalty at the percentage rate specified below on the proceeds. And what is the rate specified? Gold and diamonds, 3% royalty. Gold and diamond, 3%. All other minerals to be agreed but not exceed 5%. Royalty basis. Royalty shall be determined on a net seller return basis for gold and diamond. What do you mean on a net smelter basis? So they can go and smelter the gold and diamond and say this is the net. Who's turn payment? Royalty shall be paid 45 days after the point here is why are we collecting royalties from these people? Why are we not even doing revenue sharing? With them, why are we relying on them? So I think pressure need to be put on the legislature and executive branch to go to follow up on these. One other aspect I wanted to talk about was termination by the government and the terms of the contract. So as I was saying earlier, in 2023, as the we administration was basically heading out, maybe they didn't know they were going to be voted out. They signed an agreement with Beer Mountain that extends all the way to 2050 something. Under these terms of 3% royalty and 5% royalty for our gold and diamond. I don't think this administration should just assume that because the government of Liberia signed a contract with these people, therefore it must remain perpetually obligated. It can go, although the Beer Mountain contract says that it's not open to review until 2028. I think the government can insist, hey, we need you to come and let's do a review. And if we refuse to do a review, we'll cancel the agreement. You can take us to court or do whatever. Because I think it's untenable that government will be getting 3%. The country, not the government, will be getting 3% royalty for our gold and diamond. Why the price of gold and diamond is spiking on the world market? I think what we should do is to say anytime the price of the commodity goes up, the government, in fact, the easiest thing to do is to just do revenue sharing so that we share on at least an appreciable basis and not 3% royalty. And this is not limited to just Via Mountain. That was the only contract that I was able to look at. I remember I saw a video where a gentleman also went to Cape Mount, and interestingly, Beer Mountain is located in Cape Mount, and was also exposing the pollution, the level of pollution, the number of companies are carrying on in our communities. That is something that needs to be addressed as well, and they need to clean up. They need to clean up any pollution that they cause, and we need to pressure our legislators. We need to pressure our government officials, the lands and mines, agriculture, to make sure that action is taken to address the inequities in our concession agreements, because until the government is able to generate the required resources, it's going to be extremely difficult for us to undertake the level of development that the country needs to, improve our education system, improve our healthcare system, improve our infrastructure, telecommunications, internet service. I'm looking at internet in our country and how our young people are taking advantage of the little internet that they have to create talent. That simply tells me that if we are able to, improve our connectivity, that our young people can do even more, that they have the skills and the talent and the ingenuity to do a lot more, but they rely on resources and allow government input to do those things. So we should not just give our resources away to so-called investors while we don't have the resources to improve the lives of our people, to improve our infrastructure. For Ken, I'm sorry that we've encountered this technical situation. um it's yeah, it's 8 o'clock p.m. I think we should break and try to fix it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think we should break and try to fix it so that we'll come back next time. I want to thank our viewers for tuning in. Thomas Awaji, Flomo Livingstone. I can't name everybody here because some of you have come and left. But Jacqueline Willis, let me scroll up here. Maybe I'll see other names. Yeah, but and we also want to apologize to you for this technical glitch. We will fix it, and we'll come back strong next Tuesday. Also want to invite you to join Volcano Shelter on the Volcano Shelter show on Thursday as well. Yeah, a very good conversation takes place there. I have asked him to invite me, so I hope he will invite me this Tuesday. I'm just kidding, but yes, thanks for joining us. We'll be back on next Tuesday. Again, join the Volcano Channel. Share the link even after the show and ask people to watch it. Thank you very much and have a very good night.